सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। We have come to the almost end of the Bhaja Govindam shlokas, Mohamudgara. The last three shlokas we will try to analyze, understand. Sukataha kriyate Rama bhogaha pashchad antaha sharire rogaha yadyapi loke maranam sharanam tadapi na munchati papacharanam. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate. Artham anartham bhavaya nityam nasya tata sukha leshaha satyam putradapi dhana bhajam phitihi sarvatraika vihita ritihi. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate. Pranayamam pratyaharaha nitya nitya viveka vicharaha Japya sameta samadhi vidhanam kurvavadhanam mahadavadhanam. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate. Guru Charanam Bhuja Nirbhara Bhaktaha Samsarat Achirat Bhava Muktaha. Sendriya Manasa Niyata Niyama Devam Drakshasi Nija Hrudayastham Devam. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate. Samprapte sannihite kale nahi nahi rakshati dukrum karane. The whole process of Bhaja Govindam, he made us to go through these various shlokas, various aspects of Bhaja Govindam. We looked at it, and then we have come to the almost end of it, where he says, Artham anartham bhavaya nityam. Constantly realize that the money itself is anartham. That means it brings about danger. It is dangerous. Nasti tataha sukha lesha satyam. It itself does not contain sukha. It does not contain happiness. And this is what is the truth. Putradapi dana bhajam phitihi. Before that, Sukhataha kriyate Rama bhogaha paschadyanta sharire rogaha yadyapi loke maranam sharanam tadapana munchati papacharanam. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam. When we are enjoying at that point of joy of enjoying anything in this world, material world, we forget about all the effect of it, that we are just caught up in that joy. And then what are the consequences? What is that it's going to happen? We will not look at it. Paschat anta sharire rogaha. Now, yadyapi loke maranam sharanam. Ultimately, death is something what will happen. For anybody, for everybody, the death is something which is there. What is born will have to die. Sooner or later, we will die. There are people who lived for more than 100 years. The people who lived for 30 years, 35 years, like for example, Shankara himself lived for only 33 years. So, but then there are people who 125 years, like for example, the Tulsidas lived for 125 years. That's what the records say. So, people who have lived long, people who have lived short, all those people, everybody has to go through the death once in a while. How does it matter how long that you live? But then what happens is that, are we in the process of roga grasta? That means caught up by the sickness. And sickness makes us crippled. So therefore, is that the way that we would like to live? This is what the question we need to ask. In Raghuramsha, Kalidasa says, Yavane शैशवे अभ्यस्त विद्यानां यौवने विशेषणां वार्धक्ये निवृत्तीनां देहिना योगिनान्ते तनुज्यताम्. The idea of leaving the body, you see, he's describing about the ordinary human being who is in the Raghuramji. That means to say, at that Raghu time, what was the life of a person is? Sheshave Abhyasta Vidyana. But the childhood days, that yes, you learn. You learn because that you have very fresh mind, memory, everything is there. So that's a process. That's a time when this process of learning is intense, and then we need to put that into use. Sheshave Abhyasta Vidyanam. And in fact, if they have to learn that, whose responsibility is that? It's the society, it's the parents, the teachers. It is their responsibility to see that how much that you put them to learning, and the learning that will help in what way. And that's what is the next step that he says. Sheshave Abhyasta Vidyanam Yavane Visheshanam. It is that youthful time that you go to the objects. You go to the various enjoyment of the objects and all those things that you look for. Fine, that's okay. It was not denied in this culture. People used to enjoy. But then what happens? Shaishava Abhyasta Vidyana Yavane Vardhakye Munivrittinam. As we advance more and more, that you try to see that you are trying to help these munis, Munivritti. That means to say, taking care of the religious people, spiritual activities, spiritual centers, and all those things, so that what happens? Ultimately, Yoginante Tanutyajam. At the time of the death, then you go like a yogi leaves his body. That's a very beautiful way. That means to say, this Jivatma which is there in this body, the limited self that is there in this body, merges itself into the Paramatma, into the universal self. Allow it to happen. It does not have to struggle, it does not have to fight, it just merges into it. Like the way that river merges into the ocean, Jivatma merges into the Paramatma. That's what is Yoginante Tanutyajam. So that's a very beautiful way of putting it. That means to say, uh, whatever the time that you live, whatever the time that you have in this world, that you don't unnecessarily suffer from the roga. That means to say, there is a gharshana, there is a fight that's going on. What is roga? That means there is a time where that your own self is fighting with yourself. This is what is roga. Roga is that I am constantly fighting with myself. Like an object is there in front of me to enjoy, but I cannot enjoy it. There's a desire wanting to enjoy, but then there's a caution that I can't enjoy. But in spite of it, people go for that. But in spite of that, they go for that. They see the consequences that so much, and then they suffer that. And it's not just only one consequence, it goes with so many other kind of things that are there followed with that. Today, the roga does not mean it's confined to only one particular place. It's spread into everywhere. So therefore, that anta sharire yoga, such a person who, uh, see, for the sake of bhoga, that he goes for the object. Objects are supposed to give us two things. One is that it is necessary to nourish us, and second thing is it also gives us the joy. It also gives us the satisfaction. But we should stop at the level of satisfaction, understanding that the satisfaction is something that we need to hold on to, but not the object. That's what in the Upanishad also says, that you go to the object for the sake of happiness. Drishya darshana sambante yanubhuti ranamayaha. Anamayaha anubhuti. That means the extraordinary experience that you have. After that experience that we have, drishya samvalita bandha tanmukta muttircha. The moment that you hold on to the object, that's what is bandha. Bandha means basically now your fight will start within that. Now there is so much of gharshana, there is so much of fight that's going on within, and that fight results in the form of roga. And when it starts in the form of a fight within, and that's what is called as adhi, and it manifests at the body level in form of vyadhi. What normally people think about adhi is that, yes, workplace stress, this stress, that stress, they may be there, but more important thing is that the kind of negativity, the kind of fight that's going on within you is basically the way that you develop adhi. So one may not be, many people come and they say that we don't have anything with the in the object. Office is fine, my business is going on okay, family is fine. There is no apparent reason for stress that's going on. But then when you closely watch them, interview them, try to work with them, that you see that there is an inner fight that's going on for every small little simple thing that they do. So this is what antah sharire yogaha yadyapi loke maradam sharanam tadapena munchati papa acharanam. Papa acharanam tadapena munchati. So therefore that it is something which goes into that. We become the object, and the joy the object can give becomes so much more important that Sadhu Ritambara used to say very beautifully that whatever the object that is there for you to enjoy, you are the master of it. What is beyond what you enjoy is you're a watchman for that. You're constantly watching. And many times what happens is you're watching, but you yourself cannot have it, you cannot enjoy it. You just keep it and it goes on to the next generation, next generation. But this is what's going on. Over a period of time, what happens is that money becomes important, bhoga becomes important rather than all other things. Whether you have Indriya Patutva is there or not, there is a there is a ability to enjoy that is not there in the sensory organs. But in spite of it, you push yourself towards that. This is what when we push that way, what is the way that you can come out of that push? That's what in the sculpture, very beautifully, systematically, they have organized, saying that there is, in Kathopanishad also, it gives the idea. There is something which is Shreyas, there is something which is Preyas in this world outside. What I like is what is Priya it comes from, and what is good for me is what is Shreyas. And early children in the beginning, before the whole world is open to the child was only introduced to what is supposed to be good for him because he doesn't know other way. That's why he goes to Gurukul. Whatever is supposed to be that is good for him, that's being introduced for him. And he gets used to it. First 16 years in the Gurukul, 18 years till he becomes teenage, crosses the teenage. He is there in the Gurukul. Gurukul that he has all kinds of activities which are connected with what is good for him, because that's what is the society that he lives. Afterwards, he is thrown into the society outside. When he's thrown into the society outside, the society has mixed things. Good is there, bad is also there. And there are possibilities that the children get introduced to that bad things. Till now that they have not seen, they came across that and they get drawn to it for a while. But then soon they know that these are the things which are supposed to be that I like it, but they're not good for me. But then good is already introduced to them in the form of Shreyas. So they go back to that. So this was the idea of Gurukul system, so that many people are protected, many children are protected when they grow up, going for something what is supposed to be simply a greed fed kind of a thing, rather than what is the wisdom fed. What is the wisdom takes you to, and then that you go for that. What is basically your greed, your avarice, your competition, these things feed you, and you don't go behind it. So that way, the human being is saved from what is supposed to be destructive. So, and finally, Anta is definitely happen, Maradam Sharanam, that's what is going to happen. But then he is Marana, the death is just merging into the ocean outside, merging into the infinite outside, Brahman outside, rather than fighting with that. It just very smoothly, gently follows. In fact, every death becomes a fight the more and more that you have attachment to the object outside, greed, and all those comparison, all these things that are there is going to feed you. And once you come out of it, tadapena munchati papa. This is what is papa charanam. Papa charanam does not mean that you are, I mean, in a sense that even these things also under the papa charanam. Often people think papa charanam means murdering somebody and deceiving somebody, destroying something. They're all there, but more important is for a common man, an ordinary person. Even this is also supposed to be Papacharana. In the sense that my system does not accept it or is not supposed to be given, but I continue to give that because that there is a greed within me, there's a desire within me, and then I go behind it. And so, arthamanartham bhavaya nityam nasti tata sukha lesha satyam putradapi dhana bhajam bhitihi sarvatresha vihitari. Behind this particular shloka, which is arthamanartham bhavaya nityam, wealth is dangerous, wealth creates calamity. Reflect constantly on that. Bhavaya nityam, bhava, that means feel that all the time, that the money is something, wealth is something which is going to create a big gulf in your life. Bhavaya nityam. The truth is that there is no happiness at all to be gotten from that. Arthamanartham bhavaya nityam nasti tata sukha lesha satyam. Lesha sukha. That means not even an iota of sukha is not there. Na asti tataha. Not in that. And this is what is the truth. And putradapi dhana bhajam bhitihi. Putradapi. That means somebody who is so very close to you, like your own son, your own family members, your own kith and kin. Not only that, supposed to be your well-wishers, all those people that they go away from you, or they fear of these people will always be there. If you are constantly caught up with that money, dhana bhajam bhitihi sarvatra yesha vihitaritihi. This is what is generally the picture of the world outside. To recognize that. There's a very beautiful story that comes in the Upanishads that a bird catches hold of a fish or a piece of meat and then flying, and then everybody, all the other birds are chasing it. And this is the Upanishad story, chasing that bird, hundreds of them. In the beginning, that he thought that how wonderful that I am, I'm the leader and all these people are following me. They like me, they respect me, they give me so much of regard. So therefore that this bird is happy. But then soon the bird realizes that all those birds are coming to attack him. He goes up and then they also try to go up and all that. And there is no freedom for him to just stop. There is no freedom for him to slow down, because the moment he slows down, all the other birds will just pounce on him. Therefore, that to escape from that, he is trying to run faster and faster and faster. But then they also come closer. But then over a period of time, this bird is becoming weaker, because how long can you fly? You get exhausted. At one point of time, the bird realizes that let me just leave this piece of meat that's there in the mouth. Once he leaves that, there's another bird which catches that, and now all these birds run behind him. This bird realizes that it is not that all these birds are happy for me, they are following me, but no, they're actually following the wealth. They're following the meat piece that is they're carrying. Now he is free. Now he flies in the sky with freedom. Once he leaves that piece of meat, then he flies free in the sky. Once it is not there, then you are totally free. He laughs at himself. He says that why? I'm thinking that all these people are there behind me because they love me, they like me, they respect me. But that's not so. If I'm a nobody, then nobody follows me. If I'm somebody, if I have something, then people follow. That's why people want to be somebody or the other. Nobody wants to be a nobody. You have to have wealth, you have to have something so that people follow you. You have the material. More material is there, more bank balance is there. Yes, you are the leader. People touch your feet. They touch your feet not because that you're intelligent, not because that you're anything worth touching the feet, but you are somebody that you have all those things. That's why Upanishad very strongly says that nakarmana naprajaya dhanena jage naike amritatva manushu. Amritatva, the blissful state, you will get only with the help of Tyaga. Tyagena eke, that alone will give you that. Don't have all these things. These are there only for the sake of need. Just take care of the need. These things are there. Make the needs a minimum, then your life will be free from all this kind of attachment that is there. So all these people, everybody follows because that you have, there is something or the other. Nobody follows because that's what you are. And those people follow you as you are the people really that they are behind you, they're with you. That's what we have story from Mahabharata also, that Yudhishthira is going to the heaven and walking to the heaven, and all these Pandavas, Kunti, everybody follows him. And a dog is also coming along with him. And then slowly, one after the other, who are supposed to be very close to him, very near to him, dear to him, they like him, they all drop off. Arjuna drops off, Bhima drops off, Kunti drops off. Even Draupadi will not be there. Finally, this dog is coming with him. And then when he goes to the heaven, there, the gatekeeper there says, the Yaksha, who says that you can come inside, but the dog cannot come to the heaven. But then Yudhishthira says, well, the dog followed me all the time. So he also has to come with it inside. But then he says that no dog comes to the heaven any time. Dogs are not allowed. If dog is not allowed, then I also don't want to come, because he knows that this dog is one thing which is followed, not because that he is Yudhishthira, not because that he is wealthy, he is a prince, he is big and this and that. None of those things. The love of the dog is absolutely unconditional, follows him unconditionally. Then he says that when Yudhishthira says like that, the dog comes up and says that, becomes Mahavishnu and says that, look, just want to test that I was here with you, to see that how much that you give respect to somebody who is respecting you not because of anything else. The pure respect for the sake of respect, love for the sake of love. All other things are relationship. So all these things are volatile, all these things are short-lived. Now here, very important aspect is that Ashtamanartham bhavaya nityam nasitata sukha leshaha satyam. There is not even an iota of truth that's there behind it. When he says that, this is where the Ananda Mimamsa that we need to really understand very clearly, the happiness analysis that Shasiji always used to give that. In fact, probably that the most important uh, essence of Vedanta one must learn, so that, see, all other questions in Vedanta, they seem to be more or less like an academic questions. Like, for example, what is the basis for the, where from this creation comes? We are already here, we are not really bothered about that so much. Similarly, what happens after death? Even that question seems to be not very connected with us, and so that everybody dies, we also die, one day we also go. It can easily pass on that way. It may not become very serious issue for us. Like that, many questions that are there in the Vedas, which are supposed fundamental questions, Upanishads, these are not very serious questions for us. But one question that's there very important in our day-to-day life for everybody, and that's what is the idea of happiness. And it's not just only a question, it is something which you constantly face with. Because that you say that there is happiness in this, happiness in that, and every aspect that you do, it is for the sake of happiness. Prayojana. Prayojana manudeshna mandopi pravartate. We ask, why I have to do that? What is the benefit that I get? What is the happiness that I get? Money, this, that, something or the other that I need to gain. So I get something, I get the happiness, therefore that I do activity. And this is what Upanishad plainly says about that. The real truth of life is very clear. Sukhameva labdhva karoti, tasukam labdhva na karoti. When there is happiness, that you do it. There is no happiness, you don't do it. Happiness may come directly by doing it, or happiness may come indirectly, that by doing that you get money, lot of money, you get paid, you get this, you get that, and then that you enjoy. So therefore, basically, that it's also converted into happiness. And if somebody gives you money without doing also, that you are ready to take it, because after all, the money gives you happiness. That's why a lot of people escape from doing activity, show to the people that they are doing activity, but otherwise, that their interest was what they get out of it. So happiness seems to be the cause, is the crux of the whole issue. Our whole life is that happiness. That's what Upanishad brings down to a very simple formula saying that Sukhameva labdha karoti, na sukham labdha na karoti. If there is happiness, we do it. If there is no happiness, we don't do it. Obvious, very simple thing. Every moment that we continuously put this into this litmus test, is there happiness in this or not? Many times we take up the things which are not giving happiness, but in spite, at that point of time, we know that ultimately it gives me happiness. A long run, it might give me happiness. Therefore, that I do it. Somebody is boring and I listen to him. The simple thing is that, yeah, it is an investment that I do so that tomorrow when I am boring, I speak to him and he will be listening to me. Today I'm listening to him, tomorrow he will listen to me. It's an investment for me. So like that, everything is for the sake of some benefit that you get. Sukhameva labdha karoti, na sukham labdha na karoti. So this is what we do. The central key issue of any activity that we do is the idea of happiness. So happiness is the main cause for that. But then what happens is that's what the whole world is looking at. The whole world is doing that. Material world is doing that, giving you happiness. In fact, big socialistic philosophers also gave the formula for the sake of happiness, saying that Karl Marx has given the communism, the one person socialistic philosophy that he has given, Karl Marx. He also in preamble he says that the four words that he says that this is to maximize the happiness. That's what is the idea. And Abraham Maslow's the whole hierarchy is based on this particular idea of happiness. Sukhameva labdha karoti. And but then what is that? A particular socialistic arrangement is going to give you happiness. I said poor man is unhappy because that rich man has robbed him, therefore that he is unhappy. Therefore that if you make rich man and poor man equal, then they will be happy. This was the simple law. That's why they went and looted the rich men so that everybody became poor. But then at the end of it, people became poor. But then this philosophy did not stand long because even within the communism also that there are people who are rich because they could make money. So therefore that this is what's going on. So rich man, poor man, this division has always been there. And Karl Marx tried to give us that socialist philosophy. And we have seen the world adopted this philosophy for about 60, 70 years and failed, went down. When it went down, then materialistic philosopher, he said that I will give you happiness, material gives you happiness. Because basically that what communism has done is that it took away the material at all. So people have become poor. They didn't have the basic material also, they did not have it. Unfortunately, many rulers across the globe, that's what they have done. They have amassed wealth, kept the others poor. Their own subjects poor. And that itself is a cause for revolution, social unrest, as for the civil revolution that has taken place. So therefore, this system failed, socialist system failed. Then materialistic philosophers said, okay, we'll increase the production, increase the material. So that's what the socialist philosopher will give you happiness. That's what you can see. Every object, that slogan that you see in the advertisement, every object is give you happiness. A new product that comes into the market is to give you happiness. A new car comes with so many facilities so that yes, you can happily sit down and run there. You don't even have to hold the steering. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to change the gear. This, that, whole blah, blah. So everything is for the sake of happiness. And the food also, instant food that is there. All that what you take the food and then put it in the microwave, heat it and then eat it. You don't have to do anything. So everything is coming to see that how they can make you happy. Material world is giving happiness. So are we really happy with all this material world that you are getting? So look at it, introspect it, you see that there are two things that they said. Material world gives you freedom. So you are putting so much of work. Now, if a machine will do that work, you have free time. You have a lot of free time. So uh, that was the attraction that they gave. But do we really have free time? Look at it. Today we have so many gadgets, so many things are there to do the activity. Are we really having free time? It looks like we don't have it. We filled every free time with something or the other, more and more things that are there. And this is how basically the continuing the rat race. So when both these things, all the other systems outside fail, Upanishad also talks about Skameva labdhva karoti, nasukam labdhva na karoti. But what is the formula? What's the idea Upanishad gives? Upanishad gives, don't look at what object gives you happiness, what situation gives you happiness. Look at what happiness itself is. Sukhameva vijignyasitavyapati. There's a very bold statement Upanishad says. Look at what is happiness itself, what happiness itself is. Don't look at what gives you happiness. Don't go run behind the object outside. Look at the experience called happiness. And it is important for 2, 3 reasons. One reason is the object is outside, whereas experience is inside. Object does not belong to you. Experience belongs to you. The second thing is an object which gives you happiness today may not give you happiness because it has got so many other parameters that are attached with the object to give you happiness. So many parameters are involved behind it. And unless until those parameters are taken care of, the object will not give you happiness. So therefore, that happiness in the object outside, it does not seem to be consistent. If an object gives me happiness today, the same object will not give me happiness tomorrow. It has become already obsolete. A movie, a nice, wonderful movie, I see. I really enjoy that movie. I recommend for you that you go for the movie. You say, would you also like to accompany me? I said, no, no, because I already see it. Now, first time I enjoyed, this time I cannot enjoy it. Anything like that. The people become obsolete. First time that you are so happy with that person, but slowly the diminishing happens. I'm not finding the same happiness with them. So therefore, that object does not give you happiness which is consistently there. Not only that, it's not only not consistent with you, consistent with your whole family also. I like some music, but my family may not like that music. I like some object, the others may not like that object. So it's not universal to say that object gives you happiness. So therefore, analyzing the happiness to give you, your object to give you happiness, is you keep on revising the list every day, every moment. It's never ending as permanent solution. Whereas experience of happiness is common to all of us. You also experience happiness, I also experience happiness. Therefore, I can analyze the happiness. Rich man's happiness and poor man's happiness is one and the same thing. Illiterate's happiness and a highly literate person's happiness is also one and the same thing. A child's happiness and adult's happiness is the same. Therefore, when you look at it, the happiness is irrespective of the things that are there outside, young or old, child or adult, object or no object, literate or illiterate. Therefore, he says that Nasi tata sukha leshaha satyam. The truth is that not an iota of happiness is there in the object outside. If it is there in the object outside, artham means object outside. If it is supposed to be, then somebody who has artha should have happiness. Somebody who doesn't have artha should not have happiness. But that's not so. But then what is that which gives you happiness when you look at it? Every time that you are touching that state of happiness, any object apparently giving you the state of happiness when you are in touch with that object outside, it suddenly makes you silent inside, peaceful inside. Like, for example, food, it gives me happiness because hunger is the way that I come away from our nature called peace, tranquility. I'm restless till I get the food. And the moment I give the food, what happens is that the desire, the hunger, and the food, they match. When they match, when that equilibrium balance takes place, that's the moment I really enjoy. Next time you can experiment this. This is something that you can experiment. It's not something which book has to say. Your own experiment. You are really thirsty. Wait for really thirst to grow. And once you are really thirsty at that point of time, you see that when you take water, what will happen? Ah, you feel that kind of satisfaction, sense of satisfaction, peaceful state. That means you touch that quiet state of mind. You have transcended the mind, you have transcended the intellect, you are in a blissful state, Anandamaya Kosha. And an object which pushes you into that Anandamaya Kosha is the object which is appearing to be giving you happiness. When you are really thirsty, at that point of time, when you take the water pushes you to the Anandamaya Kosha, then you feel happiness. Whereas if you are not thirsty, any amount of water will not push you there. In fact, on the other hand, you feel like throwing it up. Okay. You don't want water. Same thing about the food, same thing about anything. That moment that you touch, that your blissful state inside, that's what is the state of happiness. Object appears to be giving you happiness, but at least that object is taking me to that state. No, which state is yours, but hunger is the way that you come out of it temporarily. The food is taking you to that state. You see that in the case of children. They're blissfully, happily playing. They never worry about anything. But then suddenly the hunger comes up. When the hunger comes up, then they start jumping. Give me food. Mother says that, Arey, you are happily playing. Suddenly you started crying for food. You could have given 5 more minutes for me, 2 more minutes for me. I can fix your dinner. So 2 more minutes, I would have been blissfully playing. Because a child will not leave that Anandamaya Kosha, blissful state, not even for a moment. In fact, how beautifully Shastriji used to analyze that experience, that is that when the desire is there, hunger is there, and all that, and that's what is restlessness created, restlessness energy that's created. Now, what happens when you give the food? The food, when it meets with that hunger center, then immediately that the process of activity of matching that takes place, and then prana energy flows from the head region and then down there so that it becomes empty. Mind becomes empty, no more thinking. That's what you can see that when people are eating food, they are quiet. There is no discussion that's going on. Everything becomes silent. Similarly, when you are listening to the music, music gives you happiness. There is restlessness within us, and then energy flows through this particular center. The nice, wonderful music is falling in your ear. The energy is drawn towards that. Now, where is this restless energy? All right, hunger is a particular state, and thirst is a particular state of requirement for water. But in the normal course of time, also, I can really listen to the music and then feel joy out of it. See some dance and then get experience out of it, or see some nice, wonderful scene outside and then I get the joy out of it. This is where Shastriji always used to give us this example, saying that look at what happens when you sit quiet. Sit quiet and see what happens to you. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you can sit. Later on, you become restless. You become restless. That means to say, deep inside, that you have restlessness energy that's going on. You want to do something or the other. And the expression that you give for that restlessness is boredom. I'm getting bored. No, you don't have to do anything. You sit quiet. It's so difficult. Most difficult thing in this earth is to sit quiet doing nothing. People think it is very easy. It's not so easy. And the more sophisticated, more difficult for a person to sit quiet. The moment you sit quiet, you have to switch on the TV, you have to watch something, or you have to munch something. Why? When you look at it, there is restlessness that's going on. And the moment you, and that rest comes with it, that's what we call it as Anadya Vidya, Mula Vasana. We are ridden with all these vasanas. We're riddled with all these vasanas. And then you subserve this vasana by taking a small little simple quantity of some peanuts or some coffee. In fact, people say that on the holiday that your cups of coffee increases, number of cups you take. Chai. Why? Because restlessness is there, you can quench it with the chai. Chai itself is not giving happiness, but the chai quenches this restlessness, energy flows down there so that your mind becomes empty. That space is created, and that space is nothing but Brahman, Atmasthi. So that space, Ananda, is the one. That's what ultimately that it's all about. So, Nasitata Sukalesha Satyam. All these things are, there is no happiness in the object outside, there is no happiness in the money outside. All these things are necessary for the sake of our living. They are utility based, that's all. Not for the sake of happiness, not for the sake of joy that you get. But what happens is that people join you because of all that. Putradapidanam bhajam bhitihi. That means everybody is around you to see that how much that they get out of you, they take from you. May look a little too much for us, but look at what happened. The whole of Islamic Muslim rule in this country. The son killed father, son put the father behind the jail, and therefore they occupied the kingdom. So this is what's going on. Very difficult. The son himself puts court case on the father to get the money. One of the very, very big wealthy person about 50 years ago that he had a huge company. His own son took over everything and then he put him in sea in a small little hotel just to stay, lodge to stay. What an unfortunate thing it is. Nobody comes to you like the way that you become. If you realize that, if you consciously do that, you will be free like that bird flying in the sky, not being chased by any of those people. Yes, they come to you if they have real love, genuine approach for you, but not otherwise. They don't have to come to you. Putradapi dhanam bhajam bhitihi sarvatraiha vihita ritihi. Esha vihita ritihi sarvatra, everywhere. This is what is, whether it is in the case of animals, or in the case of birds, in the living creature. And in the case of human being, it's much more because that human being, it's not just only the need, but also the greed. You know, in the animal world, that greed is not there. Like, for example, a tiger kills an elephant, eats as much as the hunger permits, and after that, he just walks away. Other predators that they eat, they take care of it. The, the, the tiger will not say that it is my kill, so therefore the tiger. There's nothing like my possession. So this possessive quality is not there in them, therefore that they're happy. They go ahead with the whole thing very easily. Sarvatresham bhitari Bhaja Govindam Bhaja Govindam. What's the way out of it? It is the way. The early that you find out that the divinity within you, the blissful state within you, Anandamaya Kosha within you, that's what is Bhaja Govindam. Recognizing this Anandamaya Kosha. It's not in the object outside, it is your own nature. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam, Bhaja Govindam. Unfortunately, what happened today is that every activity is connected with the money. Every activity is connected. I always say that there was a time we didn't have so much of importance for money. Objects were there, that's all. We did not convert the money. People used to do the activity, and according to the activity, they used to get whatever they deserve in form of objects. It's not a question of money. The objects were there. Like I remember, my father was a doctor. He used to serve the people because he was a medical doctor. He would give the medicine, but then he would never charge. He would go to home visits, and the remedies that he would give is household remedies and all those things. And come home. But those people, zamindars and all that, they used to have fields, they used to have crops. So when the crop is over, then they send a bag of rice to our house. There is never any equation. The whole idea is that they have to survive, dad has to survive, our family has to survive. Somebody has a mango garden and then you would send the mangoes during the season. How many mangoes he would send it? How much? He doesn't worry about it. But then he used to have a clinic. My father used to have a clinic where all these rickshaw pullers and the porters and people like that, they used to come and he would give them medicine and he would not charge them. He had a box outside, whatever the money that they would like to put it, they don't put it also fine. But then the box is there outside. So that money is used again for sake of getting the medicines for. But those days we didn't even have this medicines on the company. But then let's have a big share, bottle, which hardly used to cost anything. But then that was the way that the things were managed. Money was given less importance. Money did not have that importance. Our tailor would just stitch the clothes for us. He would never charge. So I was used to that kind of life when I was a child. That no money, but the life is going on. Artham anartham bhave. The more and the more that we convert into the money, I think the evils have started. Unfortunately, today we can't do anything without converting it to money. That's how we are created. Many times I wish that we come back to, at least in smaller areas, villages, we would go back to that level where mutually we live together. We create a small little ranch where we live like that. Commune. We create a commune where we mutually help and do it. We don't require much money. We don't work with a lot of money. Everybody puts his. That was the kind of life. Life becomes like enjoyable. Then what happens? When you do not attach money value for that, the work that you do is just important as work, not otherwise. You're a carpenter, you're doing carpentry work. You are a teacher that you teach. That's all. And you're a doctor, you serve. Patient. Very simple thing. There is no question of money involved in that. That's very important. In that kind of a society, then less amount of people coming away from their blissful state, happy state. They're not under stress. Pranayamam pratyaharam nitya viveka vicharam japya sameta samadhi vidhanam kurvavadhanam mahadavadhanam. That beautiful shloka, it comes to now almost like the end of it, where it's taking us to. Now he said about that Maranam is something, death is something which is natural. Whatever that is born will die. And now he comes to the yoga techniques that are the pranayama pratyahara. Pranayama is the practice of the yamaniyama asana pranayama, the fourth step in Ashtanga Yoga, and fifth step is pratyahara. So whatever that now Shankara is giving is what is there in the Yoga Sutras. It's there in the Parampara itself. As I always say, Parampara it always had, and the Yoga Sutras only put that in the form of sutras. Now, what do you mean by pranayama? What is meant by pratyahara? In fact, before even go to the pranayama pratyahara, let me give you the idea. Patanjali Ashtanga Yoga, he has given the asana, pranayama, pratyahara, and people are given elaborate ideas about asana. There are so many asanas, people perform the asanas and all that. But Patanjali, in my view, has only one thing, that he has only two things that he divided into. Human being is, when you look at human being as an energy, so close your eyes, what are you? You are nothing but a kind of an energy which created all the kind of activities. The activity that is created by the energy, that's what you are. And that energy, when it is manifested outside, that's what is prana. And that energy which is manifested inside is supposed to be chitta. So these are the two types of activities that we have. Prana related activity, which are that you are manifesting in the world activity outside, that's what is prana. And your activity turned inwards is what is called as the chitta. So therefore, basically, these are the two types of activities. And the field in which that it is done is supposed to be the Sharira. Sharira does not have greater implication than that. If you close your eyes, then you know there is no body at all. All that what you have is an energy that's going on. And these are the two things which are binding us, to the world outside. All the senses are the functioning through, are the prana is functioning through these senses, connecting me to the world outside. But the prana is not there behind the senses. If you can withdraw the prana from behind the senses do not operate. Eyes themselves do not see unless until the prana is there behind it. Chitta is there behind it. So therefore, what happens is that this prana is the only activity that is there turned outwards. And the whole idea of Patanjali is to see that how you can make it in such a way that this activity is going on outside, but at the same time, you can turn inwards. You can turn inwards. The way that the activity is going on, yet you can turn inwards. And that's what is the technique by which that you do is what is called as pranasya ayamaha. Pranayama. Prana means that which makes the movement. And that movement I create in such a way that there is such a balance takes place, and then it takes care of itself, and then it can come out of it. And this pranayama is not only for the sake of human being, it's the whole nature. That's what is going on. Wherever there is life, that's what is called as prana, and where all these things are going on. Objects themselves are, even the objects also, that there is little prana which is going on its own way, not expressed that way, but it just dies, decays over a period of time. Whatever that is born has to decay. But then what you can see freshly manifesting, like in the case of flowers and animals and birds and all that, born, and therefore the prana is there, and then they die, the prana is gone. But then their death is very simple, of merging the prana in the world outside, withdraw from the objective world outside. This pranayama principle, basic idea is to see that how it can take you beyond. Pranamayam atmanam upasankara. My identification with the prana, I should be able to leave it behind and go back. And that's what is the idea of pranayama. Pranayama does not mean that you do all kinds of different activities, but to see that these are only the techniques that are developed either by Swatanarama or later people, but the author of Yogataravadi, etc. But then the whole principle of pranayama, according to the Vedanta, according to Prashnopanishad and all these things, is to see that how the prana is going on, prana chalanti tad dharmaihi, it's going on its own, and ananda buddhi purnasya nameki pradesh. I am with the ananda that nothing will bind me. I am free from that. So this way, that if I am able to do that, that's what is the idea of pranayama. Patanjali also gives that idea, saying that after the exhalation, before the inhalation, that gap between that, prachardana vidaranabhyam va pranasya, by holding on to the gap after the exhalation is a passive stroke, and then before the inhalation starts, That's the moment where you are still, as far as the prana is concerned, and you can withdraw yourself from that prana. So therefore, pranayama is something, a practice which can go beyond. But then pranayama is also something which can make you this life harmonious. Like in the moment that exhalation, inhalation are total balance, it is something like when is it balanced? When our hunger and food are in balance, your exertion and sleep are in balance, like that. But balance is there created in all these activities, because it is that activities which prana is there behind all these activities. And once that activity is created, that balance within that, then you can free from that. There is a very wild movement and the silence inside, non-movement inside. When that is in a total balance, that moment that you can free from that, like the way that a top, when you rotate it, when the top really rotates at one point of time, you see that it is just standing on one simple point on the needle, on the nail, and the whole top is moving, but it looks like still. That means a perfect balance is achieved, harmony is achieved. The same principle is used in the Darvish dance, where the guy raid, but then the center one point is that where they're just quiet, silent. So there's a harmony between that. That's how the nature is, the creation is. So pranayama is the way that the nature is created. Inhalation is the way nature is created. So pranayama is also the life. Pranayama is also the nature. Pranayama is also a practice to see that how to create a balance. But then what happens? Pratyahara. It is withdrawing from that nature. So it looks like pranayama and pratyahara, they're one opposite to the other. They're not opposite. Birth and death, they are not opposite. They are two sides of the same coin. Many times people say life and death question. Life and death, they are not connected. It's the birth and death, they are connected. Life is what is there in between. If you make that life comfortable, pleasant, happy, joyful, then yoginan pe tanutyaja. Then you leave this body like a yogi, blissfully. So this pranayama is the life and pratyahara is withdrawing from that. It looks like that these two are opposites. They're not opposite, they're complementary. Pratyahara is the one which helps you to see that you can leave the energy that's there outside, and then you can go deep inside. Safely go deep inside. That's what is pratyahara. Every exhalation is a pratyahara. Every exhalation is a death. Every inhalation is a birth. And actually, that truly happens within our system also. Every time you exhale, whatever that is dead is there, you throw it out, you remove it. Whatever that's waiting there, you just throw it out. Inhalation rebuilds the whole thing. It's constantly going on within us. The birth and death is constantly there. It's happening all the time. And that's what is the case of pranayama, pratyahara. So therefore, this pranayama, pratyahara belongs to the whole creation itself. Whole creation. And you also are part of that creation where birth and the death happens. And then it has its own cycle by which that it will do. It will happen. This is what undergoes this particular change is supposed to be anitya. This is one where we need to look at this. Pranayamam pratyaharam, then nitya nitya viveka. In the case of animals and all that, they don't have any other discrimination. Whatever that the nature plans for them, whatever that the program that is created, they'll live according to their program. They go according to. You can see that fireflies that flies into the house when the rainy season. They flutter around for a while, and then afterwards the wings drop off. They fall down on the ground. Now they're crawling for some time and all that. Maybe they become predator. They become food for some other, or otherwise that there's a. but then once again that they die. So all that, when the wings have to fall, when they try to get this, but then whatever it is, all planned. According to the plan, it goes on. Whereas the case of human being is the one who gets caught up into that roga. Roga means you don't want to leave it, you want to hold on to it, and you suffer from that. All those things will happen because idea is that whatever that is anitya, that means whatever has coming and going quality, we try to impose nitya on that. That means we want that to live eternally, be forever. You yourself are not eternal, but we want world to be eternal with you. Your world to be eternal with you. You plan, you scheme in such a way that as if you are going to live. That's what we say, that if I don't live as myself, then I live myself in the form of my son or my daughter, this my scheme, my work. So people want that. There's one company, British company, where somebody has given a big donation, Britisher. And they said, my name has to be there. I should be the chairman for this company. Even after a day, I die, I should be the chairman. It's for the company's lifetime that I should be the chairman. It's not my lifetime. A lot of money, people agreed on that. So therefore, that afterwards he died. When he died, they removed all that flesh in his body and then filled it up with the grass and all that, and then created his image. And even till today, that seems, I heard, is it real or not? But when the board meeting, that the chairman's chair is there and then his image is sitting there, then all the other people are discussing and all that. He's still there. He wants to be there with that. Anitya. He doesn't know what is called as Nitya, what is called as Anitya. The moment you have Nitya, Anitya, then you see that you use it accordingly. It's not a question of anything wrong or right or anything like that. Like for example, food is supposed to give me satisfaction as far as I'm hungry. But then hunger comes after 5, 6 hours again, the hunger comes up. I don't want food to give me permanent happiness of hunger, freedom from hunger. So it gives a temporary freedom. Then I don't want to be greedy about the food. I just take as much as my hunger permits sometimes. Very interesting thing about this food is that many countries have created artificial scarcity. Otherwise, we have enough food for the whole world. We can produce so much of food for the world. After all, we have so much of land which can create food. But these politicians, they create all this kind of scarcity. In fact, even in India, it was created scarcity about the food. And Lal Bahadur Shastri took over as the Prime Minister. For one season, for that season that he has taken over, there's so much of shortage of food. And he had to go to America to beg for food. America actually did not entertain because these are all beggars. That really gave such a jolt to Lal Bahadur Shastri, came back and thought that when this country is hungry at that point of time, it's very good to attack, Pakistan attack. It was that time he created this slogan that India is for the sake of both the soldiers in the warfield and also the farmer in the land. Therefore, he created the slogan, Jai Jawan, Jai Kishan. And that in 2 years, we have become surplus in food. Today also, we have so much in food. But then there are some countries where they keep them into the drought condition and they supply the food once a week in the form of aeroplane comes and drops the food. And then when they drop the food, actually there are strong people, big people, that they hoard the food and they don't give it to the others because that's like their barter. So now they give it to the others only when they fulfill certain conditions. So the scarce was felt on the people, and by that, the rulers were ruling the world. That's what it is. So that the common people had the scarce psychology. It was known as scarce psychology. So much that scarce psychology entered into their cell system It's very funny to see that the food that you give, it goes to the stomach. But the stomach cells also now are trained in this case psychology that they don't share that food with the other limbs. That's the reason why in Africa, Ethiopia, several countries, see children are with big belly, but at the same time lanky hands and legs because the belly does not share its food with the hands and legs. That means at the cell level that you had that scarcity. Why it happened? It's because that we don't understand. Created that scarcity. Nitya, Nitya, Viveka Vicharam. What is Nitya? What is Anitya? Food is necessary for everybody. In this culture, we always used to have that kind of an idea. Food is supposed to be plenty, therefore, everybody has a right to have food. So much in the culture itself that anybody before, you know, the head of the house, family sit down, sits for food, looks around on the street. If there is anybody, ask him to come to food. Anybody comes to the house at that time, we'll always have food in our house. Many times it used to happen my father's time. There are 10, 15 extra people used to have food in our house. It was so common. Because food is something which is anitya. Yes, somebody is hungry, give him, finish. Nitya is something which is Brahman. Atmasthiti, Nityasthiti. You are Nitya. But your body, your mind, your intellect, all these things are Nitya. Once you have this Nitya, Anitya, Viveka, Vichara, intellect level, once you have done the pranayama and pratyahara, but you realize that, and then intellect also knows that all these things belong to Anitya, and then there is Nitya behind it. It is working with that. Nitya, Anitya, Viveka, Vicharam. Once you have that, then it will help you to go towards that silence inside, Samadhi. Samadhana, Samadhi is a state where you are pure consciousness, you identify yourself as a pure consciousness. But Shankara does not recommend here that everybody is going to meditate to go to that silent state, peaceful state. Not caring for the world outside. That was not Shankara's idea. That was the idea Patanjali has given. Patanjali has given japa, he gives as an idea. And then beyond the japa that you go to the silent samadhi, that's what the next state he gives. That's what even Buddha tried that. Buddha gave that. Buddha philosophy. That's why Shunyavada just said that. You have to go to that ultimate state. Whereas here Shankaracharya gives a very beautiful idea, which is much more practical than that. It says that Nitya Nitya Viveka Vicharam Yapya Sameta Samadhi Vichadam, Samadhi Vidhana. Samadhi Vidhana is along with the japa. It's not beyond the japa, but being with the japa. See, the japa is something which connects the world outside. Japa belongs to the world outside. And samadhi is there deep inside. So both these things have to be connected, so harmoniously blended that one is not against the other. When we read the other things about other people's creation, all that, samadhi seem to be opposite to japa. Samadhi seem to be, or at best that they can say that japa is the last step before the samadhi. Therefore, japa to ajapa to silence. When Shankara also says that in some of the commentaries he has written in the Mandukya Upanishad, he used that. But here in Bhaja Govindam, he says that Japya Sameta Samadhi Vidhana. The Samadhi Vidhana is with the Japa Sameta. That means to say, respect the world outside, involve in the world outside, give due importance to the world outside. At the same time, Samadhi inside. You are connecting both these things, that you are the Brahman, but at the same time in the Jagat, you are the Kriya, Prakriya that's going on. Kurvavadhanam, Mahadavadhanam. So that's what, with care, we need to blend both these things, not to run away from them. What is that way that you can see that both whether it is the Nitya, Anitya. Nitya, Anitya, often people think of Anitya is good and Nitya is bad. Nitya is good, Anitya is bad. Nitya is pious, Anitya is not pious. Brahman is pious, and then Jagat is not pious. This is what people take it. But then here, this Avadhana, Mahatavadhana, extraordinary, wonderful contribution that we can do, care that we take, is the one that we see. When both these things are given good respect for that. All these things, when you say, the world outside, and that's what is Dukrun Karane. He denies like the Dukrun Karane, that means that, but the Dukrun Karane becomes beautiful, wonderful. The world becomes wonderful only when you are on one side japa, on the other side samadhi. Now japa is something which can really give you a arrow towards that samadhi. And samadhi is that which has its support bearing foundation. In the case of only foundation, that's what is japa. Japa is the foundation on which that samadhi is there. Samadhi is not without japa. It's really a wonderful world for the outside world. So this is Mahat Avadhanam, extraordinary, wonderful. When can that be possible? Is when Guru Charanambuja Nirbhara Bhaktaha Samsarada Chidadbhava Muktaha Sendriya Manasa Niyama Devam Drakshasi Nija Hrudayastham Devam Guru Charanambuja Nirbhara Bhaktaha. Guru is somebody who can really give us this. He doesn't, he gives us to see that you respect this world, not getting involved in this world, not getting top of in this world. But at the same time, that he always leads you towards that Atmasthiti, Brahmasthiti. That's what is the Bhaja Govindam. He can take you to that. Guru Chandrambara Nirbhara Bhaktaha. Bhakta is somebody. A very beautiful idea is Bhakta. Vibhakta is separation. Bhakta is somebody who brings together. Jnani is intellect. Intellect always separates, whereas Bhakta is brings together. Bhakta lives in this world. Lives in this world taking the name of the God. Where else can you find God other than in this God's creation? It is like the way that I say, a dancer, you are a great dancer, but your dance is horrible. When can you find out that he is a great dancer? It is in his dance. That's why God is a great creator. Where do you find as a great creator? It's in his creation itself. So therefore, basically, Guru Charanambuja Nirbhara Bhaktaha. Bhakta is somebody who depends upon this Guru Charanam at the feet of the teacher, because the feet is resting on the ground. But then you can see that he teaches the Vedanta heights, goes inside deep, then knowledge. So Guru Charanambuja Nirbhara Bhakta. One can see that the Guru is there in this world, but at the same time that he is that knowledge, base for that knowledge, knowledgeable about himself, and samsarat achirat bhava muktaha. So soon, and such a person who takes that is a person lives in this world, but at the same time he can free himself from this world. Muktaha. Thus mukti is something which is very important to see that freedom that is there. Sendriya manasa niyama devam drakshasi nija hrudayastam devam. This world is what is that you perceive through your senses. Indriya, manas, and all those things are involved, and that's how that you involve in the world outside. And when can these sensory organs and the mind and intellect can show the world is nothing but the divinity, Sendriya Manasa, Niyama Devam. It's something with all these things. And through the discipline of senses, through the discipline of these things, discipline does not mean that your niyama, the idea of niyama there, it is translated as discipline. But in my view, that the idea is that what Upanishad gives the idea, may my eyes see what is good in this world. May my ears hear. Bhadram karne vishrunuyama devaha. Bhadram pashe maksha jatra. Can we recognize the divinity? See what is supposed to be Bhadram, auspicious, good, divinity. Bhadram pashe maksha jatra. My eyes, I can only see what is supposed to be auspicious, or my eyes might make me to see this world auspicious. That means in this world itself I can see Indriya Manasa Niyama Deva. Niyama, that's what is the Niyama, that's what is the discipline, to see that. These sensory are, often people think that sensory discipline means that you control, you suppress it. When you suppress it, the negativity is there within us. And that negativity comes in the form of your dream and comes in the form of your perceiving the world in a negative way. Don't do that. Drakshasi nija hridayastam. Then what happens? This God that you see in the world outside, the senses which can see the Bhadram everywhere in the world outside, is there within your heart. And it starts from there. You first recognize the divinity within you, and that is the divinity that's there in the world outside. A rishi is sitting under a tree. Then a robber comes around and sees nothing, pushes the dagger in his chest. Rishi opens his eyes and smiles and says, "You cannot deceive me. You are also God. Deep within you, you are also nothing but that divinity." So that's what you see. You are there, divinity within. Once you see the divinity within, you see the divinity outside. Then what happens? Every activity that we do, every moment that you do becomes Bhaja Govindam. Bhaja does not mean sitting and singing or sitting and using the bells and all that thing. Bhaja means that any activity that you do becomes like a singing. Any sound that you hear, like the ringing of the bells, when that way it is going on, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate. One who does not do that, it's the intellect which comes and interferes with that. When once that you keep the intellect aside, yes, intellect has done wonderful about the world outside, but then now keep it aside. Make this world as a place of divinity, continuously that you're working on that. That's what is Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate, Samprapte Sannihite Kale, Nahi Nahrakshite Dakrumi Karane. Every moment, death is occurring. Every moment, pranayama is also happening, pratyahara is also happening. Pranayama is that what you see the divinity. Pratyahara is that you come out of the materialism. Death for the materialism and life for the spirituality. That's a journey that we are making. Right from the day one that we start on this earth, we are going towards that divinity. Whether you are, this is what Sri Aurobindo says, that whether you are conscious of it or not, whether you are willing it or not, you are already going towards that divinity. Every one of us, we are going to the divinity. Only thing is that the practice of yoga hastens the journey towards the divinity. Hastens the path. That hastening is what is really required. And that hastening, joyfully, blissfully, like a celebration every moment when it has to take place, that's an expression given by Shankara. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudhamate. With that 31st sutra, what a wonderful way that Shankaracharya stops at the level of Guru, Guru Charana. So this whole parampara he creates such a wonderful parampara, the Guru Sishya parampara, the teacher and the student, and this journey continues for eternity, forever. As long as the journey is there, so long the sculpture, even though which is 10, 20,000 years old, It's ever fresh, ever vibrant, ever living, ever festival. And that expression is what is Bhaja Govindam. Let's stop it here. Conclude such beautiful thought with that. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.